Welcome to the Gridiron. We're going to be talking today. Is Michael Penix finally able to quiet his critics about his health concerns after his pro day? And how much stock do we even put in a pro day anymore after what we have seen from other candidates such as Zach Wilson, as well as are the Jets about to go all in based on their offseason free agency moves and how they are looking forward to the draft? All this and more next on the Gridiron. Welcome into the Gridiron. Before we get into all that great football action that we are bringing up today, I want to give a big shout out to one of our affiliates, and that is Lids. If you are a hat guy like me, you can go to lids.com or use the link in the description, help support the house call, and get your draft day gear. That's right. The draft day hats are out on Lids right now, and I will tell you they have some sick ass badging. I have already been looking at them. The Bears have a state of Illinois star in Chicago up there. It says the Bears on the badging on the side. You have New England Patriots with, the New England states all together, forever New England, and the Pat Patriot symbol. They come in all kinds of colors. The ones I'm looking to get are all black with a little bit of 3D badging there, and I cannot wait to see it. It is going to be great. I've got mine on order. I will have it for draft day. You bet your ass. So use the link in the description of this video and go get yourself some gear. All right. Now, Justin. Michael Penix has had a lot of stipulation, a lot of clouds overhead, a lot of speculation on whether or not he can remain healthy. His injury history has been consistently a topic of conversation as of where he ranks as a quarterback in this class. A lot of people said that if he was healthy, he would probably be quarterback 3, maybe even 2. Just because of the way he's able to throw the ball and things like that. There were also questions about his athleticism coming off all of those injuries. Is he still a mobile guy like he was younger in his career before they all started to happen back in Indiana, where he moved around the pocket a bit more, tended to run a bit more? We haven't seen that from Michael Penix recently. Then he shows out at his pro day with a 40-yard dash of 4.51 and 4.57, a vertical jump of 36.5 inches, and then absolutely dazzled us with his ball placement, arm strength, and absolute just all-around quarterback play, seemingly quieting the critics. And he did have a pretty good NFL combine, but he did not test in those things there. He waited till his pro day to show out, to really show you what he could do. And let's be fair, a 40-yard dash at the quarterback position is not indicative of a good quarterback. Just for reference, Patrick Mahomes ran a 4.85, if I'm not mistaken. So you kind of don't need to run a great 40 to be a solid, more mobile quarterback. However, he has shown he has the ability to have a pretty good straight line speed, which, kind of makes me feel a little more comfortable about him moving around the pocket. He didn't seem to have any issues with his lower body throughout the entire draft process. In fact, he had a clean medical return for himself at his at the combine. So Michael Penix has started to check a lot of boxes for a lot of people, and there might be some teams who are quarterback hungry who might be looking to get him later in the first round, early second round, because that's sort of where he's at right now. Some people still have concerns about his longevity in the league. Some people still have concerns on, even if he's clear right now on his medical history, how long does that last? He's kind of an older prospect as well, driving him down boards. But if you look at his pocket presence, you look at the way he throws the ball, you look at how he reads the field. If your biggest concern with health issues with him at this point, are those gone?
They're not gone, but they are severely distant. So the fact that he came back out of his pro day with a clean bill of health is a huge check mark for him. And honestly, it's definitely adding on to the fact that when it comes to being the best passer in there, I have him up there at near the top of the draft boards for that, as just a pure passer. Now, the athleticism and how he performed during the pro day, I have skepticism about it. I have skepticism about pro days, period. But here's the thing that's really helping Michael Penix, and it's the thing that's on my name right now. There is a huge influx of teams that are looking for quarterbacks in this draft, and there is a severe limited amount of talented quarterbacks in this year's draft. And next year's draft is not really looking that promising either, at least from hindsight. We know we're not even there yet. But let's look down the list. First 2 picks, you already know quarterbacks most likely going to be the picks there. Then there's going to be a fight over JJ McCarthy, Jaden Daniels. There's just going to be that fight of like who gets quarterbacks 3 and 4. And then Michael Penix is like near the bottom with Bo Nix at this point, is like, and Spencer Rattler. And they're just like, oh, well, who's going to be the ones here? Now, out of those 3 quarterbacks, Penix is number 1. I don't want him for my team only because he's a left-handed quarterback and I don't trust my right tackle situation. I have made that abundantly clear. I am scared between that and the MetLife turf. I am scared for that man's life. But when it comes to raw athleticism, he's good. He checked all the boxes during his pro day, which is what I like pro days for. I know we're going to talk about this more, but I like pro days to fix the issues that you had in your actual combine results. That's what I think they're best for. Now, for the health, I need to see how he's going to do in a full NFL season. It's one thing to be in shorts and a t-shirt and throwing and running. Everything could look amazing there. But when you put them shoulder pads and that helmet on and you step onto that turf, that's a whole other story. We've seen people with really, really low and poor running grades be successful in the NFL, a la Patrick Mahomes. We have seen people blazing down a 40-yard dash route, and they probably flame out after 2 or 3 years. So I'd rather see what he does after he gets drafted, because I still have concerns in the back of my head about his injury history and about the fact that he's not the most accurate quarterback when it comes to throwing on the run and having to improvise on a play, which seems to be what's carrying a prospect like Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels up to the top of the draft order. But those are the concerns that I have. I think he really does help himself with the fact that he really did impress during his pro day and the fact that there is a very, very slim amount of talented quarterbacks in this draft.
Yeah, and it's just because someone had a lot of injury history. We've seen it before. Guys have a lot of injury history in college. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be injury prone in the NFL. And just the other way around, we've seen guys who have no injury concerns whatsoever, clean bill of health their entire college career, come to the NFL and they're just an injury prone guy. So it's really hard to project that into the future. And if your biggest question is because he's older, is that a problem? It's hard telling right now. Like if that's going to be an issue, honestly. But when you talk about quarterbacks these days, let's say Penix, I think he's like 25, 26 years old, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he turns 25.
Oh, he's 23. So he turns 24. He turns 24 this year. So quarterbacks are playing into their late 30s. A 13-year career at the quarterback position is not a terrible thing to have. And I think that if he is going to be healthy, which he has proven he is right now, he showed he competed in drills that he didn't compete at, the combine and his pro day, showed that he could do them, everything like that. There was nothing that concerns you at that point with his health, especially after the medical evaluation said he's good to go. So I think that you're going to find in a unique situation, Penix will get selected. And it's going to be, I could see a team like maybe, New England, who has a lot of faith in, Michael Winu holding down the right tackle spot. They feel he's a viable right tackle, could be serviceable holding down the blind spot. And then you don't have to pay a left tackle as much maybe, and you can kind of work that out on the back end. And you think about other quarterback needy teams, the Denver Broncos are there. Seattle could sit him for a year behind, Geno Smith if they want to, and give him an opportunity there. There are some quarterback needy teams towards the back of round one. The Rams come to mind as well. When you think about how that offense is, they have a very, explosive wide receiver core. The offensive line isn't terrible. And you could easily plug Penix in there after a year behind Matt Stafford, give Matt Stafford one more run, maybe two, depending on where you get Penix at. I mean, if you get Penix in the second round, you're not in a rush to start him. You're not worrying about the 5th-year option. You're just going for it, right? Or if you get him at 19, you do have a 5th-year option on him. Hell, that gives you 1 extra year under contract where you're not overly concerned towards the end of the first round. So I think he's going to have his suitors. I think he's propelled himself into a late first-round pick. That is my opinion. Honestly, he was the best quarterback at the Reese Senior Bowl every day of practice. The only thing that held him back was his injury concerns, and he didn't play in the Senior Bowl. He showed up for 4 days of practice, but did not compete in the actual game, which is why Spencer Rattler, who was the second best quarterback there, and it was close, I'll give Spencer Rattler his flowers, got the Senior Bowl MVP. I think if Michael Penix plays in that game, which I don't think he really could have gained anything in his draft stock from playing in that game that you hadn't seen already on his tape. Like, let's be fair, it was never a question of his quarterbacking ability of why he was going down boards. It was his injury history. So the only thing he could have proven was, hey, I'm healthy, but you also put in the risk of him taking a low hit and getting hurt. And then he just tumbles, right? So there was nothing to be gained from Michael Penix playing in the Reese Senior Bowl. And he took that time to step back and allow the guys who did have something to gain, the Bo Nixes, to show they could throw downfield, manage an offense, the Spencer Rattlers, to show they were more than a flash in the pan when he was in Oklahoma and, you know, behind a good offensive line and a solid offensive scheme, he can be productive. He let those guys ball out, and, you know, in Spencer Rattler's case, he did. But Michael Penix is going to have that opportunity somewhere to be viable. And when you start to think about, you know, maybe if a team like the Patriots decides to double down here, they could get a Rome Odunze, you know, by trading back a little bit, get an extra first, and then get some extra capital to move back into the first round and get Penix if they thought that if their injury concerns are now gone. You know, you look at the same thing from some of these other teams that are looking for wide receivers but need some quarterback help. They have a similar function as well. The Vikings come to mind. They could use the 11th pick and a first round next year to trade up, get Odunze, and then you pair Odunze with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and then you grab Michael Penix at the 23rd pick, and suddenly you have your quarterback, a solid wide receiver core, and their offensive line isn't terrible, you know, and you can spend the rest of your draft capital the rest of the year maybe some of next year's and get some solid offensive line depth to really shore it up. And suddenly you're the best offense in the NFC North, and, you know, arguably with the Bears at that point, and maybe the Lions. You know, it's going to be a closer NFC North. And I like that move for the Vikings because you don't have to give up much to do it, right? Like, you have the ability to do a little extra there, and maybe they can swing that. It's a possibility, but yeah, he's in the first round for me for sure. But like you said, you don't put a lot of stock in pro days anymore, and for good reason. Guys like Trey Lance, Zach Wilson in recent memory, they all had insane pro days. We all watched them absolutely blow up, right? Yeah. And on the flip side of that, you know, we saw Talia Tagovailoa, whose game film shows a live arm capable of making reads, throwing off platform, moving outside the pocket. People said, you know, it was a duck. They didn't have any zip on the ball. You know, he didn't show athletic throws, you know, things of that nature. And it's like, well, the tape looks one way and, you know, everything else looks the other. You know, which one is true? And it's kind of one of those gray areas where I think, like you said, you're looking for things that maybe they didn't test well at the combine to show out there, right? Like, you're looking for them to have some sort of flash in the pan that they didn't show you, or they showed you on tape but didn't get to show you at the combine, and that's what you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
And so,
and the one thing I will just throw in there's only one position in football that I feel like benefits a little bit more from a pro day than it does a combine, and that would be the quarterback position. And the reason I say that is the relationship between a quarterback and their receivers is one that is built up through time and repetition. Yeah. So when you see a quarterback throwing in the combine, they're throwing to receiver prospects from different colleges that they've never played with, that run in different styles, that like the ball in different places. In the pro day, they're throwing to their receivers. They've already had this time and relationship with them. They know exactly how to throw it to them. So I feel like when it comes to quarterback play, it does benefit quarterbacks more to throw at the pro day than it does in the NFL combine, just because of that familiarity. But yeah, when it comes to like overall feeling about pro days, it can be very misleading watching players in shorts and a shirt, making throws, making catches, running, doing the same drills that they do in the combine. But that would be the one time I would really say that the quarterback benefits more from a pro day than a combine.
And you know, it's funny. I think pro days are essential. I think they're valued, and it's because you can't have every prospect who's draft eligible show up at the combine. It'll never happen.
True.
Right? So my pro days for me are for guys who are, you know, day 2, day 3 guys to improve their draft stock, who didn't get a combine invite, who didn't get a Reese Senior Bowl invite, who didn't get an East West Shrine Bowl invite, right? These are the guys that show up and show out. And pro days allow you to do more with that player. We've seen multiple times where, you know, the combine's very strict and who's running the drills, you know, people are just observing. I mean, how many times have we seen coaches go to pro days and, there's been pictures of Mike Vrabel running a pro day with a prospect he's interested in, or Bill Belichick out there doing linebacker drills in the rain at some D2, with a D2 or like a fringe 7th rounder pick because he feels he might have the motor to be something special and be a draft day steal. That is what benefits the most from a pro day. I think quarterbacks, honestly, it's all fine and dandy for you to be comfortable, right? Because obviously if you're comfortable, you're going to perform better. I think pro days are a crock of shit for quarterbacks who've had a chance to go high, for quarterbacks who had a chance to go to these other Senior Bowls and Reese Senior Bowls, and East-West Shrine Bowls in the Combine. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to know how you perform when you're most comfortable. Mm-hmm. I want to know how you perform when you're least comfortable. Because you're not going to be comfortable under center in the NFL. At any point in time in your career, if you ask Tom Brady, hey, Tom, were you comfortable in live game action under center? Were you always feel really, really just, this is cake. I'm just, I'm just comfortable. Like I don't feel rushed. I don't feel any pressure. This is just out there playing catch with the boys. Absolutely the fuck not. Tom Brady's a competitor, okay, and he's going to give his competition their due. He made it look easy, but he was never comfortable. He asked Patrick Mahomes, right, who a lot of people say is right now is the greatest quarterback in the NFL, still playing. Yep. I'm going to caveat that so no one gets upset at me. And he's not going to ever tell you, he's like, oh yeah, I'm just comfortable out there, just playing catch with the boys. No. So I'm not a big pro day fan when it comes to quarterbacks. I'm a big pro day fan when it comes to guys who didn't have an opportunity to showcase their skill set, right? Yep. And that I feel like is where you find your draft day steals. And personally, I would rather, if you're gonna perform at a pro day, perform at a pro day. If you're gonna perform at the combine, perform at the combine. If you do drills, if you're holding out drills at the combine because you want to do them with your training staff on your comfort field, like where you have a comfort level at, because you can trust the field, you've been on the practice field, the turf situation, all those sorts of things, and you think that reduces your chance of injury, sure, go for it. But I have never been a fan of evaluating a quarterback who is throwing a football without live pressure, without, just in shorts and a shirt. Like, what does that tell you? What do you get out of that? There's like, people gave Caleb Williams a lot of shit because he didn't test at the combine. And what did he say? He said, go watch my tape. And I think that's a justifiable answer. People gave him flack for that. Like, oh, he's conceited. He thinks he's too good for it. Is that what he's saying? Why does he have to go out there and put himself through the ringer on reps that essentially don't matter just because you want to see it live? Like, he gains nothing from it. He knew he was going in the top 3 picks regardless. And most likely a number 1, barring something outrageous. And then the Bears traded Justin Fields and it was even more confirmed. So what does he gain? Besides you having a warm and fuzzy you saw him throw in person? Absolutely fucking nothing. Absolutely nothing. The pro days are not for a top 10 guy. They're not. The only reason I think a quarterback should throw at a pro day is if he's trying to elevate the stock of his wide receivers. Because at that point, you want to give your guy the chance to show his shit. And the best way that your wide receiver can can show off what he does, outside of, the 3-cone drill and showing the route, how crisp routes are and everything like that, is having timing and rapport with the guy throwing him the football. Outside of that, the pro day for a quarterback is ridiculously stupid unless you didn't get a chance to perform at the other things I talked about earlier. It serves no purpose. And so I'm okay with Michael Penix having a pro day and doing some extra stuff in there and then giving them another shot, look at his arm, because he really could gain some stuff from it, but it also helped like Jalen Polk and some of his wide receivers that were there. It helped those guys. And, not Roma Dunze, we already know where he's going, so it doesn't really matter for him. But like, there's 3 other Washington wide receivers that are going to go somewhere on day 2. Right? Like, we have 2 guys right there that have a shot. That gives them benefit. So outside of that, the quarterback has no business doing it. That's my opinion. But yeah, pro days are bullshit. From as far as I'm concerned, it's a way for you to show off. Oh yeah, I have a cannon. I can throw off platform and do these ridiculous throws, and they're scripted, right? And
Yeah.
it's all meant to make you ooh and ah.
Yeah.
But that's it. It doesn't serve any other purpose. But I mean, I don't know if you feel the same way. I kind of went on a rant on that one, but I mean,
no, but you do make a lot of great points about it. And honestly, even though you and I don't agree on the value between a quarterback throwing at a pro day, I do see it from where you're coming from as well. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense, especially what you said. Pro days are definitely the best for like those day 2, day 3 guys, because this is the time that they can shine in front of scouts, in front of coaches, in front of other staff members for teams. And I do agree, like if you're a quarterback and you have the chance of helping your wide receiver 2 or 3, who's probably going to go 3rd round, 4th round, 2nd round, to help them shine a little bit more, open that draft stock a little more, then so be it. But you know what? You made a lot of great points there.
I mean, I try. I do my best. But speaking of doing a lot of great things, the New York Jets, your team's friendly confines roommate there at MetLife Stadium, have been doing some things that I really like. They have been, re-signing some key depth players, brought in some talent at some of the special teams positions, but they've also been making bargain signings for key positions along the offensive line, as well as getting Mike Williams, who granted is coming off a major injury, didn't play much last year, but that they are shoring up a wide receiver core that looks like they might be willing to go all in for Aaron Rodgers. Now, the defense for the Jets has already been solid. We knew that from the get-go. And they have been looking to get Aaron Rodgers more protection and better weapons to make a good run. So my question for you is, with the Jets having, I believe it is the 10th overall pick in this year's draft, do the Jets make a blockbuster draft day move to get one of the top 3 wide receivers to shore up their wide receiver depth and give Aaron Rodgers more weapons? Or is a massive draft day trade involving the Jets going to land them a veteran wide receiver to round out their wide receiver core?
Honestly, both can happen, either one, and it would be a great move for the Jets. The better move, in my personal opinion, definitely trade up, get that first-round talent, the wide receiver. You have them on lock for basically 5 years. But there are certain wide receivers that I would pick up the phone for and definitely try to inquire about. And one of them's a certain person down in the Bay Area that told you that money talks and bullshit walks. And I would take Brandon Ayuk 7 days out of the week, twice on Sunday to be specific. And I would make that call first. If I can't work out a deal with the 49ers and John Lynch to get Brandon Ayuk, now I'm going to start calling up teams in that can't even say top 10. Probably got to go in like the top 5 or 6 to be sure to get one of those receivers. And I'm thinking specifically somebody like a Neighbors or a Roma Dunze, because let's be honest, there's any wide receiver that's going to be taken first, it's most likely Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't think he slips past the Chargers, but then again, there's some clips going around of John Harbaugh saying that he focuses more on the offensive line. So is that like a hint that Joe Alt might be getting drafted there at 5th overall? Who knows? But and I'm throwing this one out there, if somehow Marvin Harrison slips past the 4th overall pick, I could see the Jets making that call and probably putting down a huge deal to try to get him. Because if you can imagine Marvin Harrison Jr. on that Jets team with Aaron Rodgers throwing to him and the core that they already have in that offense already, they can make some noise. The only issue that set them back last year is the fact that Aaron Rodgers got injured.
Yeah.
And if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, that's a scary Jets team.
Oh, yeah.
But that's where I also have my concern with the Jets. Because if anything happens to Aaron Rodgers this year, and I'm saying this as a Giants fan because, again, the MetLife Stadium turf takes people's kneecaps. And if that happens, or another Achilles injury happens, or a patella injury, or anything happens to Aaron Rodgers, the Jets season is done because they don't have a real contingency plan. They have Tyrod Taylor, who is the equivalent of strapping a Band-Aid on a problem. He can get you a couple of wins, but he will not be your quarterback one. He is a very, very top shelf backup quarterback. I love the way he's been playing. I loved him playing ever since he came out of Virginia Tech. But it's not going to work with him. And if anything happens to Aaron Rodgers, then guess what? The Jets are going to be looking for a new head coach and a new GM at the end of this season, because I feel like that those seats are getting hot, which is what's fueling the fact that they have been going all in on this season. And it could go one of those two ways. Either the Jets are going to make a blockbuster move, shore up that wide receiver core, and Aaron Rodgers stays healthy and the Jets are in the playoffs and everybody from Gang Green is getting excited, or they're back to square one. And there's no in between at this point.
No. And, you make a good point. And it is said, I think it was Woody Johnson, the owner of the Jets, came out and said, we needed a backup quarterback. We didn't have one last year. And, which is an indictment on how he views Zach Wilson.
Yep.
And so, Tyrod Taylor said he's a top shelf backup. He's going to win you games. And with that defense, I think he gives them a shot to make the playoffs if Aaron Rodgers goes down. I think Tyrod Taylor can do that. Winning a playoff game? Probably not. But they have done quite a bit of things to get some depth on this team, to get, sign some key players. They're kind of running out of cap space, but I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I had them making a draft day trade to get Brandon Ayuk for the number 10 pick, a 1-for-1. They send the number 10, they get Ayuk. And then, the 49ers are like, oh, we need another wide receiver. They pair, 31 and 10, move up into the top 5 and get their guy. So it's a possibility for them to do that and to get their guy and do those sorts of things. They've been saying, oh, we want to hold on to Brandon Ayuk. And, that might be a draft day trade to have happen. Or maybe they just sit there and the Jets figure out, hey, we might reach for a guy we like. We might trade back and get a couple of guys we like. I mean, there's a lot of top tier wide receivers in this draft. They don't necessarily have to trade up to get a top tier guy. I think, they look at what their roster is. They have some guys they really like. They just need a guy who rounds it out. Maybe a for sure one. I mean, Mike Williams isn't going to be a for sure one. I think Garrett Wilson maybe could be like a top 15 wide receiver in the NFL. It's a possibility. We haven't seen it yet, but I feel that's more of an indication or indictment on his quarterback play. But I mean, I'm pretty sure even with his quarterback play and the revolving door at quarterback, Garrett Wilson had 1,000 yards last year. So, that tells you everything you need to know about Garrett Wilson as a route runner, as a wide receiver, and what he's capable of. We all know Mike Williams is a 50-50 ball guy. He's going to make spectacular catches. His health is a question. So I think they need to get a little extra depth, a little extra talent there. But the Jets they have to go all in. I think that you have a situation where you don't have a choice but to go all in. I think they're not done making moves. I think that they're going to do some restructures. They may even do some cuts. I think one of the guys I'm looking at right now is a cut candidate who could save them a lot of money. I mean, they just got Hassan Reddick in a trade, so they've got some more defensive line there. But, you have like CJ Mosley's 32 and you could save $16 million if you cut him. And granted, it's 23, like almost $24 million in dead cap, but you need the space. You only have, $1.5 million in total cap space right now, according by as far as over the cap is concerned. So you're in this bad situation right now, sure, when it comes to money, but you can move money around. We've seen teams, $45 million over the cap, shed money into future years, and then like sign players and field the team when we thought they didn't have a shot because, of how over the cap they were. No one saw how they get out of it, i.e. the Saints the last couple of years.
I was just thinking that one.
But the Jets, you have to go all in. This is your year. Jets fans, if you are not taking what they're doing as an all-in sort of idea here, then you should be rioting, because you have a quarterback who is starting to approach those later years coming off a major injury. You have a young team in some spots and older in others. You've, made some key trades. You've done some of these things to get your team in a position to have top tier talent. We've seen lately the Bills kind of, they came on late, but they weren't that good throughout the year. They were hit or miss, even though Josh Allen was, Josh Allen, but the rest of the team seemed to take a step back. You looked at, the Miami Dolphins, who basically proved that, they're not a playoff team. They're just a really good regular season team. And, kind of things like that where they kind of fumbled the bag when they had a shot at the 1 seed. And then you think of, the Patriots where they're at right now, they're full rebuild. So you have a definite shot to win the division if everybody's healthy and you go all in. And at that point, you look at sort of like how, the Chiefs offense wasn't overly explosive, and I think your defense is comparable. So you could match up with them well. The Bengals, they're going through some injury stuff there. They're having some, people are disgruntled in the offense. We're wondering how that's going to work out. And I think your defense is better than theirs, and your offense is comparable once if you get another guy in the wide receiver room. I think that, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd match up pretty similarly to Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, and insert rookie, top tier wide receiver talent or Brandon Ayuk here. I think that's a comparable wide receiver core. I think your offensive line is probably a little better, and you have a really good running back. So you match up with them really well. The Ravens as well. I think your defense is comparable. Your offense, I think, is a little better. We saw, that again, Lamar Jackson is a good quarterback. He can do a lot of things, dual threat, but at the end of the day, he can't do it by himself. So you look at the teams that are there in the AFC, and suddenly the Jets, if you make just a few extra moves here throughout the draft, get these top tier talents, go for the home run swing, you are in the top tier, class of the AFC. You will be in the conversation week 1 if you do the right things and you get the players you need to get to round this thing out and make a run one more time with Aaron Rodgers. And that pains me as a Patriots fan to say out loud, because, nothing brings me more joy each year than watching the Jets fans have so much hope at the beginning just to be tumbled and tossed in the first 45 seconds of week 1 or, by week 5. Right. So, but at the same time, if you don't, you're either all in or all out. That's what I'm getting at. All right. So you can't do this 50-50 shit.
So let me propose one other idea, because we went heavy on wide receivers. And there's been a recent resurgence of another particular position, especially that you saw in these playoffs. What would you think about them drafting Brock Bowers instead of being their catching tight end? Because we have seen it work out in Minnesota, in Detroit, definitely in San Francisco, where you have these pass catching tight ends that are just destroying defenses over the middle.
I mean, it's a possibility. I think that what you run into when you start to think about it, you start looking at the people who have caught passes from Aaron Rodgers, and predominantly the guy who leads that is Nelson with 70 touchdowns. He's more of a slot route runner guy. You had Devontae Adams, who was your outside guy at 66, Randall Cobb, Jones, Jennings. There's not really a tight end on this list. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I mean, there's not really one on this list that's had double-digit stuff from him, and it comes back to certain quarterbacks don't like to throw to tight ends. We've seen it. Certain offenses don't go through tight ends. And if you think about the Jets, is their offensive scheme really geared for going through a tight end? And Conklin wasn't a bad tight end for them, right? I think Brock Bowers is available at 10. I think you could get him at 10. But does that really move the needle for you? Now, granted, I did make an argument of positional value, and I did say 3 of the 4 conference championship teams had a top 3 tight end.
Yep.
Sam Laporta was number 6 in the tight end rankings according to PFF. The number 1 was George Kittle, then Travis Kelce, then Mark Andrews. And the Super Bowl champion had the number 2, or the Super Bowl teams had 1 and 2. So that tells you that a tight end, a top tier tight end, is very valuable to having a successful team, because they're very equivalent to a slot wide receiver. And I think Brock Bowers, maybe in a move tight end / slot kind of alignment, might be that guy. It's hard telling. But Aaron Rodgers, I mean, Robert Tonyan did have a couple of good years with him. Yep. With him, maybe that's something that you could see there. But you think about the style of tight end that Robert Tonyan is and the style of tight end that Brock Bowers is, they are not the same guy. Brock Bowers is closer to Travis Kelce than he is Robert Tonyan, right? Robert Tonyan is more of the George Kittle, Mark Andrews style of guy who's a red zone threat, blocks really well. But, I think he's not on the same receiving tier of George Kittle and Mark Andrews. So It's an enticing, intriguing idea, but I think you have to really question whether or not Aaron Rodgers is looking at like a Robert Tonyan or like a tight end style of guy that's going to be his guy. Like I said, predominantly he likes that shifty slot guy who's got some elusive speed, can kind of get open downfield, find the gaps in zones, and really kind of break, good routes into big gains and touchdowns. Right. And that's what I'm looking for here. So when it comes down to it, maybe a Malik Neighbors is more of your speed. Brian Thomas, who's just got some jets, runs crisp routes. I don't know if I would go for a Troy Franklin. I think he rounds his routes off. He's not a solid route runner. He relies on pure speed too much, but those are the kind of wide receivers that Aaron Rodgers had because of the way the Green Bay Packers do their style of recruiting. They don't go for the most polished guys. They go for the people with the most athletic talent, right? Like they go for the people who have all the athletic ability in the world and maybe are a bit raw, but that's because they trust their coaching. The question you have to ask at that point is, do you trust the Jets coaching staff to maybe take a raw prospect and do something with him, or do you want something more polished? I think Malik Neighbors probably is their best bet, who I did kind of project more towards like a slot role based on his size and his skill set a bit, but I think that he could be that inside-outside guy with his speed, route running, and release capability. And so Malik Neighbors actually is my favorite if the Jets want to go get a guy. I actually like him better for their style of play than, say, MHJ. But at the same time, just remember, MHJ, every time he went out on a field against an opponent, you knew he was going to see double teams almost every snap. And the guy still got 1,200 yards. Yep. So, I mean, if you want a guy like that who's going to be able to go out there and match up against whoever you want him to match up against and absolutely dominate, that's your guy. And the Jets need to decide, because I think at 10, you're not getting any of them. And I think the cost to move up to get one of them, you probably are closer in the realm of what it's going to cost you to get Neighbors than maybe an MHJ, unless something wild happens at 4 or 3 to where MHJ drops, which I just don't see it happening. You're going to have a problem. So the Jets have to go all in. I think they are going all in. The moves I've been seeing here, the Reddick trade, the Mike Williams, signing, all of these signings, the Tyron Smith tackle signing there, when he's healthy, he's a top 10 tackle in the league.
When healthy.
I clarified. I caveated it.
Again, when healthy. That's
yes.
Literally been the talk of the Jets 2024 season, and we aren't even there yet.
Yeah. But if you're going to do these types of moves, you have to go all in. And I think you already knew that at the beginning before this started. You're going all in. The Jets are going to be one of the teams I'm watching on draft night for that exact reason. 100%. There's no reason not to. And I think that you could agree, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if the Jets stand pat at 10, it almost feels like they are being wishy-washy on whether or not they're going all in or not. They either have to accumulate a lot of picks and trade back and get someone like a Brian Thomas later in late teens, early 20s, or you trade up and you take a swing and you get a Malik Neighbors or a Ruma Dunze or an MHJ and go all in that way. But one way or the other, you have to find the talent to make your offense one of the best in the AFC, and that you're missing one piece, one definite piece that can be that guy. So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, Justin, but that's what they got to do.
It is what they got to do. And this is the way I look at it. There's 3 plans going on with the Jets right now. Number 1, trade up, get a Malik Neighbors, which ideally is probably going to be your best bet. The way I'm seeing the draft boards line up, MHJ is definitely going to be like the first receiver off the board. The problem with wanting to get a Malik Neighbors is that there is a lot of teams that can use a Malik Neighbors.
Oh, yeah.
So you are getting into a bidding war with at least 2, maybe 3 teams with doing that. So that would be plan number 1. Plan number 2 is calling up San Francisco and inquiring about Brandon Ayuk, or calling up Cincinnati about a T. Higgins or any other up there wide receiver to try to bring one in, because you are one away from like a really good looking offense there. But then there's the third one, which is the one I asked about, which is the Brock Bowers idea, because this draft is loaded at the wide receiver position. There's nothing that can't say that you could just stick and pick, get Brock Bowers. Now you got your receiving tight end that you could put into the slot. And then you could get a shiftier wide receiver in, let's say, a second round pick or later on in the draft, stick them in the slot as well. And now all of a sudden, you got 3 receivers, a tight end, and a running back who can help you in the pass game. And you also need to shore up one important aspect of your defense, which we all know the defense is great with the Jets. The one thing they're not great at, that they were at the bottom half of the league, was running defense. They can get run on right now. And yes, you got Javon Kinlaw from San Francisco. Great. You need more to stop the run. And that's why I think that while I do agree with, getting some picks together, getting some trade value, going up there to get a Neighbors, if you can't do that and you can't do Ayuk, just stick and pick, get a wide receiver in another round. That way you have picks to shore up the one hole you have at defense and still fix your offense.
Yeah, I mean, they got to do something. You can't stand pat as the Jets, because standing pat essentially puts you exactly where you were before, right? Mm-hmm. You're just going to end up being this, kind of mediocre kind of team that's somewhere in between winning and not winning. And I don't think that is beneficial for them. I don't think that's good for them. So they got to do something. And, I'll be running mocks, kind of doing the things we were talking about, seeing where the things are at that we're talking about, how it all works out for them. But at the end of the day, sitting pat doesn't do shit for you. And so I'm interested to see what they do, where they go from here, and, kind of see how it all works out. And, it's going to be interesting to see everything that happens. So I'm very, very interested to see how it goes for them, but they have to go all in. This is an all in year for you guys, Jets. I want to hear the Jets fans after the first round and be excited. I think that if you stay at 10 and you draft like some defensive interior lineman or a corner, or a tackle.
Do the Robert Saleh New York Jets draft. Go ahead. I dare. The one thing that the Jets are not allowed to do this draft is to spend their first round pick on defense. You don't need that.
Absolutely not. And so that's where I'm looking at it. And I'm like, hey, you got to make a choice, and you got to do something. So if they go tackle, they go defensive interior, they go edge, you're just like, what are we doing? Right now, you trade up, you get a Roma Dunze, you trade up, or, and then, you kind of round it out that way and see how it works. I think that's better for the Jets in every facet of their imagination than anything else. And that is where they need to have it. They need to do something. They need to be one of the people who is like, that's bold. That's a bold move. And if they're not, I'm not excited for the Jets season. I will tell everything that happens within the first 10 picks. If we get to pick 10 and the Jets still have it, I'm telling you, I'm not going to be excited about what they do. Because it's either going to be just an insane reach and a player of need, but you're like, that's not a sexy move. You could have gotten something else, right? And Jets fans all over the world do not want that to be the situation. But that's all we have time for today. Thank you for tuning in and hearing us talk football. We love to hear from you in the comments. Let us know what you think about the Jets situation. Let us know what you think about pro days. And let us know what you think about Michael Penix. Has he quieted your concerns about his injury history? And if you're a fan of a team that needs a quarterback, would you be okay right now with them drafting a Michael Penix based on everything you've seen of him and his health concerns being cleared medically, and as well as showing out in his pro day and on the field? And be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on all of our channels and platforms. If you would like to see other house call offerings, go to the Gridiron YouTube page. You can scroll down and see all the other YouTubes that are part of the house call there, as well as Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and Spotify. That's right. If you're going on the road, take us with you. We're good listen. We're a good listen on the road. You know you like this sultry voice. Maybe not the face, but the voice is good. Okay? And be sure to check out our website, which will be in the description of this video as well. You can go see all of our affiliate links there on our affiliate page, as well as our blogs, and our merch is up there as well. So be sure to do all that and share the platform, share this video, show your friends. We always like making new friends, and we'll see you next time here on The Gridiron.